The Virathi Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds. They had crushed every species that stood against them. Their fleets darkened the skies of planets across the galaxy, and their name brought fear to every living creature. For 3,000 years, they had ruled without challenge. Emperor Kalavex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. The massive warship stretched 3 kilometers from end to end. Around it, 10,000 more vessels filled the void of space. This was the Grand Armada, the greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen. Today, they had come to a forgotten system. The star charts called it the Sol Quarantine Zone. Ancient warnings told ships to stay away. But Kalavex did not believe in warnings. He believed in power. "What do we know about this place?" he asked his advisors. General Texari stepped forward. His scales were dark green, and his 4 eyes showed nothing but confidence. "This was the home system of the humans, my emperor. They died 3,000 years ago, during the Great Purge. Our ancestors wiped them from existence." Kalavex smiled. His teeth were sharp and black. "And yet, the old records say they possessed advanced technology. Technology we never recovered. The humans fought hard," Texari admitted. "They destroyed most of their own worlds rather than let us take them. Whatever secrets they had, they tried to bury. Then we shall dig them up." The Armada moved toward the 3rd planet, Earth. Once, it had been blue and green, covered in oceans and forests. Now it was gray and brown. The atmosphere was thick with ash. The oceans had boiled away long ago. Nothing lived on its surface, or so they believed. Scout ships descended through the poisoned clouds. They scanned the dead cities, the empty plains, the mountains of rubble. For hours, they found nothing but ruins and bones. Then a signal appeared, deep beneath the surface, buried under a kilometer of rock and ash. Something was still running. A power source, faint but steady. It had been operating for 3,000 years. "Interesting," Kalavex said when he received the report. "Send a team. Find out what the humans were hiding." 100 Virathi soldiers landed near the signal's location. They brought cutting tools and explosives. It took them 6 hours to dig through the debris and reach the entrance of an underground facility. The door was made of metal so strong that their weapons barely scratched it. But time had weakened the surrounding rock. They found another way in. The facility was called Prometheus. The name meant nothing to the Virathi. They walked through dark hallways, their lights cutting through dust that had not moved in millennia. Old machines lined the walls. Computer screens sat dead and silent. Everything was covered in frost. At the center of the facility, they found a chamber, and in that chamber, they found a pod. It was made of black metal and thick glass. Frost covered its surface. Through the glass, they could see a figure, a human male. He looked young, perhaps 30 years old by human standards. His skin was pale. His hair was dark. He was naked, floating in some kind of liquid. "Is it alive?" one soldier asked. The team scientist moved closer. He studied the readings on the pod's surface. "Impossible. The human body cannot survive this long in stasis. Their technology was not advanced enough." "Then what is this?" The scientist touched the pod's control panel. Ancient systems hummed to life. Lights flickered. Somewhere in the facility, old generators began to wake. "I am activating the display," the scientist said. "Perhaps we can learn what this specimen was." Words appeared on a screen. The scientist's translator worked to decode them. "Project Atlas. Omega-class combat prototype. Unit designation. Atlas 7. Status. Ready for deployment. Warning. Activate only in case of extinction-level threat." The scientist laughed. "A weapon. The humans made a weapon and never used it. How foolish. They died before they could." The pod hissed. The liquid inside began to drain. The frost on the glass melted, and the figure inside opened his eyes. They were gray, cold, empty of everything except purpose. The soldiers raised their weapons. The scientist stumbled backward. The pod's glass slid open, and the human stepped out. He was tall. His body was covered in faint scars, lines where technology had been implanted beneath his skin. He moved slowly at first, like someone waking from a long sleep. Then he stopped. His head turned. His eyes found a terminal on the wall. He walked to it and placed his hand on the screen. "Prometheus AI," he said. His voice was quiet, calm. Status report. Where is the enemy? The terminal flickered. A weak, dying voice answered. It was the facility's artificial intelligence, running on its last reserves of power. Atlas 7. You have been in stasis for 3,217 years. Humanity has fallen. Earth is dead. The Virathi Empire rules the galaxy. I have limited data, but I am uploading everything I have. The human closed his eyes. For 4.7 seconds, he stood perfectly still. The soldiers watched him, confused. They did not understand what was happening. Atlas 7 was processing 3,000 years of history. The fall of Earth, the death of the colonies, the billions of humans who had been killed, enslaved, or erased from existence, the Virathi atrocities, the forgotten graves, the children who never grew up, the worlds that burned. He opened his eyes. The soldiers saw something change in those gray depths. Not anger, not grief. Something worse. Something final. Prometheus, Atlas 7 said. Thank you for your service. It was my honor, the AI whispered. Avenge them. The terminal went dark. The AI was gone. Atlas 7 turned to face the Virathi soldiers. They had their weapons pointed at him. 100 armed aliens against one naked human. What are you? The scientist demanded. What are you going to do? Atlas 7 did not answer with words. He simply began. The first soldier died before he could pull the trigger. Atlas 7 moved faster than their eyes could follow. One moment he stood still. The next, he was among them. His hand struck the soldier's throat, crushing it instantly. The alien fell without making a sound. The others fired. Energy bolts filled the chamber with bright light. But Atlas 7 was not where they aimed. He was already somewhere else, already killing the next soldier, then the next. His movements were smooth and precise. No wasted motion, no hesitation. Each strike was fatal. The scientist tried to run. He made it 3 steps before Atlas 7 caught him. The human grabbed his arm and twisted. Bones snapped. The scientist screamed. Your communication device, Atlas 7 said. His voice was still calm, still quiet. Give it to me. The scientist handed it over with shaking hands. Atlas 7 released him. The alien collapsed to the floor, clutching his broken arm. Around him, 99 bodies lay still. The fight had lasted 11 seconds. Atlas 7 studied the communication device. It was alien technology, but the principles were simple enough. He understood it within moments. Then he began walking toward the surface. The facility was a maze of dark corridors and collapsed tunnels. Atlas 7 navigated it without difficulty. His creators had given him perfect memory and advanced sensors built into his body. He could see in the dark. He could hear heartbeats through walls. He could smell the fear of the enemies waiting above. More Virathi soldiers had entered the facility. They had heard the screaming on their radios. They had come to investigate. Atlas 7 found them in groups of 10 and 20. He killed them all. He did not enjoy it. He did not hate them. He simply did what he was made to do. When he reached the surface, the sky was dark with alien ships. Dropships sat on the ground nearby. Soldiers ran toward the facility entrance, weapons ready. Beyond them, high in the atmosphere, he could see the shapes of warships, thousands of them. Atlas 7 stood at the entrance and let them see him. He was still naked. His skin was smeared with alien blood. His gray eyes reflected the light of their ships. The soldiers stopped. They stared at this strange creature, this human who should not exist. Their commanders shouted orders through their radios. Capture him, study him, find out what he knows. They charged. Atlas 7 took a weapon from the nearest body and began to fight. The Virathi guns were poorly designed for his hands, but they worked well enough. He fired with perfect accuracy. Every shot found its target. When the weapon ran empty, he took another. When there were no more guns, he used his hands. In orbit, General Thexari received the reports. His 4 eyes went wide with disbelief. How many dead? He demanded. Over 300, General. And climbing. The creature moves too fast. Our soldiers cannot track it. Send more troops. Send vehicles. Send everything we have on the surface. General, what is this thing? Thexari did not answer. He did not know. On the ground, Atlas 7 finished the last of the soldiers near the facility. He walked to a dropship and found its communication system. He activated it and broadcast on all frequencies. His message reached every Virathi ship in the system. This world belongs to humanity. His voice was steady, cold. You have 1 hour to leave this system. This is your only warning. On the Eternal Conquest, Emperor Kalvex heard the message. For a moment, he simply stared at the screen. Then he began to laugh. "One human," he said. "One human threatens the Grand Armada." He turned to his officers. "This is what happens when a species dies alone. Their final creations go mad." "What are your orders, my emperor?" General Thexari asked. "Burn the area. Burn everything within 100 kilometers of that facility. Let this mad creature die with the rest of his kind." The order was given. High above, warships adjusted their positions. Missile bays opened. Targeting systems locked onto the region where Atlas 7 stood. 2,000 missiles launched. They fell through the atmosphere like a storm of fire. Each one carried enough explosive power to destroy a city. Together, they would turn the land into glass. Atlas 7 watched them come. He did not run. He did not panic. Instead, he walked, 1/2 kilometer from the facility. Hidden beneath a layer of rock and sand, there was another entrance, another bunker. His sensors had detected it when he first reached the surface. The Prometheus AI had left him one final gift in its data upload. Coordinates, a location, and a name. Project Nemesis. Atlas 7 reached the entrance as the first missiles struck. The ground shook. Fire bloomed across the horizon. The shockwave threw dust and debris into the air. But he was already underground, already descending into the darkness. The bunker was deeper than the facility. It went down and down, past layers of rock and metal. At the bottom, he found a cavern, and in that cavern, he found a ship. It was black, sleek, beautiful in a way that spoke of terrible purpose. It was smaller than the Virathi warships above, but Atlas 7 knew that size meant nothing. His creators had built this vessel to end wars, to end empires, to end everything, if necessary. He approached the ship. A panel on its hull lit up. A scanner read his biometrics, his genetic code, his neural patterns. A voice spoke, old and mechanical. Atlas 7, Omega-class combat prototype. Authorization confirmed. Welcome aboard the HSS Nemesis. A door opened. Atlas 7 stepped inside. The bridge was small but perfect. Every system was designed for a single operator. The ship recognized him not just as a pilot, but as a part of itself. He sat in the command chair, neural links connected to ports in his spine. The ship's systems merged with his mind. For a moment, Atlas 7 felt something strange, something that might have been wonder. Then he activated the engines. Above, the Virathi saw nothing but fire and smoke where the missiles had struck. They believed the human was dead. They celebrated their victory. They were wrong. The ground exploded. From the crater where 2,000 missiles had struck, a shape rose through the smoke and fire. It climbed fast, faster than any Virathi ship could move. Within seconds, it broke through the clouds. Within moments, it reached the edge of space. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, alarms screamed. Officers shouted at their screens. Sensors struggled to understand what they were seeing. "What is that?" Emperor Kalvex demanded. "What is that thing?" General Thexari studied the readings. His scales had turned pale. "It is a ship, my emperor, a human ship. Our missiles did not destroy it. It was underground, hidden. Then destroy it now. All ships, open fire." 10,000 warships responded. They turned their weapons toward the small black vessel rising from Earth. Plasma cannons charged. Missile bays launched everything they had. Energy beams cut across the void. The firepower was enough to crack a moon in half. The Nemesis did not try to dodge. Atlas 7 sat in the command chair, his mind linked to the ship. He felt its systems like extensions of his own body. The shields hummed with power. The enemy weapons struck them and vanished. Plasma splashed against the energy barrier like rain against stone. Missiles exploded harmlessly against its surface. The beams scattered into nothing. The Virathi kept firing. For 30 seconds, they poured everything they had at the small human ship. The space around it burned with light and fire. When they stopped, the Nemesis was untouched. Silence fell across the Armada. 10,000 crews stared at their screens. They had used enough firepower to destroy a fleet. They had not even scratched the paint. Impossible, Calvex whispered. This is impossible. Atlas 7 studied the enemy formation. His tactical systems counted every ship, measured every weapon, calculated every weakness. The Virathi had built their armada for intimidation. They had never faced an enemy that could hurt them. They did not know how to fight when they were not the strongest. He selected the flagship. The Eternal Conquest was the largest ship in the fleet. It was the heart of their command structure. It was where the Emperor stood. The Nemesis had many weapons. Atlas 7 chose the simplest one, a single beam of focused energy, designed to collapse matter at the atomic level. His creators had called it the Erasure Cannon. They had built it because they knew that sometimes a message needed to be sent. He fired. The beam was invisible. It traveled at the speed of light. There was no warning, no time to react. One moment, the Eternal Conquest existed. The next moment, it did not. 3 kilometers of metal and machinery simply vanished. 20,000 Virathi crew members ceased to exist between one heartbeat and the next. Where the flagship had been, there was only empty space. Not even debris remained. Emperor Calvex was gone, the ruler of 1,000 worlds, erased in an instant. Across the Armada, panic spread. Crews screamed. Officers shouted contradicting orders. Some ships tried to flee. Others fired wildly at the Nemesis. None of it mattered. General Thexari had transferred to another ship moments before the attack. He was now the highest-ranking officer alive. He stared at the space where his emperor had been. His mind refused to accept what he had seen. "All ships," he said, his voice shaking. "All ships. Concentrate fire on that vessel. Everything we have. Do not stop until it is destroyed." The Armada obeyed. 9,999 ships opened fire once more. The void filled with light. The Nemesis sat at the center of the storm, unmoved. Atlas 7 let them fire. He wanted them to understand. He wanted them to feel what his people had felt 3,000 years ago. The helplessness, the despair, the knowledge that nothing they did would save them. When a full minute had passed, he spoke. His voice broadcast across every frequency, reaching every ship in the system. "You asked what humanity left behind. We left me. We left this ship. And we left a promise." He paused. The enemy fire continued, useless and desperate. Anyone who brought extinction to our door would find it waiting for them in return. Then he began his attack. The Nemesis moved like nothing the Virathi had ever seen. It was faster than their sensors could track. It appeared beside one ship, fired, and was gone before the explosion finished. It slipped between formations, leaving destruction in its wake. It moved through their fleet like a predator, through a herd of prey. Atlas 7 did not waste ammunition. Each shot was precise. Each target was chosen for maximum effect. He destroyed their command ships first, leaving the fleet without leadership. Then he targeted their carriers, eliminating their fighters before they could launch. Then the heavy cruisers, then the destroyers, then everything else. The Nemesis had more than just the erasure cannon. It had missile systems that launched projectiles capable of tracking targets across thousands of kilometers. It had point defense guns that could shoot down 100 incoming attacks per second. It had drones that emerged from its hull in swarms, each one armed with weapons that could gut a cruiser. Atlas 7 used them all. The Virathi tried everything. They tried to ram the Nemesis. It moved aside with contemptuous ease. They tried to coordinate their fire. Atlas 7 destroyed their communication relays, leaving them blind and deaf. They tried to board it. The drones tore their shuttles apart before they got close. General Thexari watched his armada die. Ship after ship vanished from his screens. The numbers fell like sand through fingers. 10,000 became 9,000. 9 became 8. 8 became 7. He had conquered worlds. He had crushed rebellions. He had never known defeat. Now he knew terror. "What have we awakened?" he whispered to no one. "What have we done?" The answer came in fire and silence. The Nemesis continued its work. It did not stop. It did not slow. It simply kept killing until there was nothing left to kill. The battle lasted 4 hours. That was generous. It was not really a battle. A battle requires 2 sides with a chance of winning. This was something else. This was a harvest, a cleaning, An execution carried out across millions of kilometers of space. Atlas 7 worked with cold efficiency. His mind processed tactical data faster than any living creature could manage. The Nemesis responded to his thoughts instantly, moving and firing as if it shared his soul. Together, they were not a pilot and a ship. They were a single weapon, pointed at an enemy that had earned death 3,000 years ago. The Virathi tried to flee. Many ships turned their engines toward the edge of the system, hoping to escape into hyperspace. Atlas 7 let some of them run. He tracked their trajectories and calculated which ones would make it. Most would not, but some would. He wanted survivors. He wanted witnesses. Someone had to carry the message back to the Empire. Someone had to tell them what happened here. For the rest, there was no mercy. General Thexari commanded his remaining forces from a cruiser near the back of the formation. He had ordered retreat an hour ago. It made no difference. The human ship was everywhere at once. It appeared without warning, destroyed its target, and vanished before anyone could respond. "How many ships remain?" Thexari asked. His voice was hollow. "Empty. 3,000, General. Down from 10,000. We lose approximately one ship every 8 seconds. 3,000. In 1 hour, they had lost 7,000 vessels. 7,000 crews. Millions of soldiers, engineers, pilots, and officers. Gone. Erased by a single enemy that would not stop. What is our hyperspace status?" "Drives are charging, General. We need another 40 minutes. Thexari closed his 4 eyes. 40 minutes. At the current rate of destruction, they would lose another 300 ships. Maybe more. Maybe all of them. Tell the fleet to scatter. Every ship for itself. Make that thing choose its targets. Some of us might survive." The order went out. The remaining Virathi ships broke formation and fled in every direction. It was not a tactical retreat. It was panic given official approval. Atlas 7 watched them scatter. His tactical display showed their paths, their speeds, their projected escape points. He could not catch them all. He knew that. He had known it from the beginning. The Nemesis was powerful, but it was still one ship. He prioritized. The largest ships died first. The command vessels, the carriers, the heavy cruisers that might one day return to threaten human survivors. He let the smaller ships go. Frigates, scouts, transports. They were not worth the time. One by one, the major threats vanished from his display. The Nemesis cut through them with mechanical precision. No hesitation, no celebration, just work. General Thexari's cruiser was one of the last remaining command ships. Atlas 7 found it hiding behind the wreckage of a destroyed carrier. The general had turned off most of his systems, trying to appear dead. It was a clever trick. It might have worked against a normal enemy. The Nemesis was not a normal enemy. Atlas 7 brought his ship alongside the cruiser. He could have destroyed it with a single shot. Instead, he opened a communication channel. "General Thexari, I know you are there." Silence. Then a response, heavy with defeat. "What do you want, human? Have you not killed enough?" "I have killed exactly as many as necessary. No more. No less." "Then why speak to me? Why not simply finish it?" Atlas 7 considered the question. He was not built for speeches. He was built for war. But he understood that wars were not won only with weapons. They were won with ideas, with fear, with messages that echoed through history. Because you will carry a message to your empire. You will tell them what happened here. You will tell them what we are. Thexari laughed. It was a broken sound, empty of hope. "And what are you? A ghost? A demon? A god? I am none of those things. I am a prototype, a first attempt. My creators built me in their final days, when they knew they were going to lose. They put everything they had into my design, all their knowledge, all their desperation, all their rage." Atlas 7 paused. On his display, the last of the major Virathi ships exploded in silence. "Your ancestors killed 8 billion humans when they burned Earth. They killed another 12 billion across the colonies. They hunted the survivors for centuries, until they believed none remained. They thought they had won." "We did win," Thexari said. "Your species is dead." "No. My species was sleeping. And you woke us up." The general did not respond. There was nothing to say. "Go home, General. Tell your emperor, tell whoever rules now that humanity remembers. Tell them we are patient. Tell them we are coming. And tell them this. What happened today was not revenge. Revenge is emotional. This was a correction, a balancing of scales, the first of many. Atlas 7 closed the channel. He turned the Nemesis away from the crippled cruiser and accelerated toward the edge of the system. Behind him, the general's ship drifted among the debris of 10,000 vessels. The Virathi survivors limped toward hyperspace. A few hundred ships out of 10,000. They would return to their empire with stories of horror. They would speak of the human ship that could not be stopped. They would warn their leaders that something had awakened in the Sol system, and the empire would finally know fear. Atlas 7 did not look back. He had work to do. The Armada was destroyed, but the war had just begun. The silence was complete. Atlas 7 stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, looking through the view screen at the field of debris that had once been an Armada. Twisted metal floated in the void. Frozen bodies drifted among the wreckage. The light of distant stars reflected off broken hulls and shattered weapons. 10,000 ships. Gone. He felt nothing. No satisfaction. No joy. No relief. He had done what he was built to do. That was all. The Virathi had come to Earth seeking secrets. They had found something far worse. Now they were dead. And he was alone. Alone. The word meant something to him, though he was not sure why. His creators had designed him for solitary operation. He did not need companionship. He did not need approval. He needed only a mission. But the mission was not over. Atlas 7 turned away from the view screen and accessed the Nemesis database. The ship's memory banks contained more than weapons systems and tactical data. They contained history, records, files that his creators had saved in their final hours, hoping that someone would find them, hoping that their sacrifice would mean something. He searched through the files. Most were corrupted by time. Others were encrypted with codes he did not recognize. But some were clear. Some were preserved perfectly, as if they had been waiting for this moment. Project Exodus. Atlas 7 opened the file. Text and images filled his mind through the neural link. He saw plans, coordinates, names. In the last years of the war, when humanity knew they could not win, they had launched ships. Hundreds of them. Sleeper arcs carrying thousands of frozen colonists. Generation ships designed to travel for centuries. Hidden vessels that buried themselves on distant moons and forgotten asteroids. The Virathi had found some of them. Most had been destroyed, but not all. The file showed locations scattered across the galaxy, places where human survivors might still exist, frozen and waiting. His people were not extinct. They were hiding, sleeping, just as he had slept. For the first time since he woke, Atlas 7 felt something stir in his chest. It was not an emotion, exactly. His creators had not designed him for emotions, but it was something close, a sense of purpose that went beyond destruction, a reason to exist that was not about killing. He could find them. He could wake them. He could protect them. The Nemesis was not just a weapon. It was a sanctuary. Its medical bays could heal the sick. Its laboratories could produce food and water. Its factories could build tools and shelters. His creators had designed it to survive alone for centuries. If necessary, Atlas 7 selected the nearest coordinates, a moon orbiting a gas giant in a system 300 light-years away. The file said that a sleeper arc had landed there near the end of the war. 5,000 colonists in cryogenic suspension. They would need food, medicine, protection. They would need him. He set the course. The Nemesis engines hummed with power. Space began to bend around the ship as it prepared to jump. But before he left, Atlas 7 turned the ship toward Earth one final time. He looked at the dead planet through the view screen. Gray clouds covered its surface. Ash and dust choked its atmosphere. The oceans were gone. The forests were gone. Everything that had made it home was gone. Yet it was still Earth. Still the world where his species had been born. Still the grave of 8 billion people who had died defending it. I will return, he said quietly. The words meant nothing to the empty bridge, but he said them anyway. When I have gathered our people, I will come back. I will make this world green again. I will give them a home. It was a promise, perhaps the first promise he had ever made. He did not know if he could keep it. He did not know if he would survive long enough to try, but he would do everything in his power to make it true. The jump drive activated, space twisted, stars blurred into lines of light. And then the Sol system vanished behind him. 300 light-years away, a frozen moon orbited in silence. Beneath its icy surface, a human ship sat buried in stone. Inside, 5,000 people dreamed of the home they would never see again. They did not know that 3,000 years had passed. They did not know that the war was over. They did not know that help was coming. Atlas 7 crossed the void between stars. The journey would take hours at faster than light speeds. He used the time to study the Nemesis systems more carefully. He learned its weapons, its defenses, its capabilities that he had not yet explored. The Virathi Empire was vast. They controlled 1,000 worlds. They had fleets beyond counting. What he had destroyed today was only a fraction of their power. They would come for him eventually. They would send everything they had. He would be ready. When the Nemesis dropped out of hyperspace, the gas giant filled the view screen. Massive and beautiful, striped with storms that had raged for millions of years. Its moon was small and pale, covered in ice and craters. Atlas 7 scanned the surface. There, beneath 3 kilometers of frozen rock, he detected the Ark. Its power systems were still running. Its life signs were still stable. 5,000 humans, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the universe that had changed around them. He descended through the thin atmosphere. The Nemesis landed softly on the ice. He activated the ship's mining systems and began to dig. Hours later, he stood at the entrance of the Ark. The door opened. Frost poured out into the tunnel he had carved. Beyond, row after row of cryogenic pods stretched into the darkness, faces behind glass, chests rising and falling in slow, frozen breaths. Atlas 7 walked among them. He looked at each face. Men, women, children, scientists, soldiers, farmers, teachers, the last fragments of his species, preserved against extinction. He found the command console and began the awakening sequence. Soon, they would open their eyes. Soon, they would learn the truth. Soon, they would have questions. He would have answers. And he would have a purpose. Atlas 7 allowed himself a small smile. It felt strange on his face, like wearing clothes that did not fit. But he kept it there anyway. Humanity was coming home. And the galaxy would remember why it had once feared the dark.